Hello, my name's Kurt, and this is the continuation of the add button. So we're going to have to do some more stuff to the add button to complete our add button, and hopefully we'll get to the clear all button in this video. If not, we'll pick it up and we'll pick it up in the next video. So with that, let's just continue on with this. So here in front of you, we have our add button that we completed in the last video. So if I hit add, it's going to add this to our database and clear all this out. So let's see what happens when we hit the add button. Okay, so we cleared it out, go to the database, and it added it in. So that is what we wanted. All right, let's go back to our input. And now let's go to our extensions. Select app script. So next, what I'm going to do is I want to clean up this code here a little bit. All right, so I want to create a functions file because, for example, this clear all here, you can use that in different functions in the code.gs file. So the way I look at this, the file structure here, is you can rename this anything you want, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it code.js, and this is going to be my main program. This is where I'm going to put all my main programs or functions for app scripts. Now I'm going to create another app script file called functions. Just hit enter, and it automatically puts the GS extension on it. So here we have it. So now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this. This is our clear input. Cut it. I'm going to go to our functions. I'm just going to go ahead and paste it in here. Now we're good. And I'm going to name it. I'm just going to name this one here a different one. We're going to call this clear input. All right, so now we have it. So I'm going to hit save, and it's going to automatically save both of these. Let's go back to our code, and we can see it is gone. All right, doesn't appear to be any error messages. So we hit that. We'll leave that like that. We have to save it again. Now we're going to sit there and make sure the function.js is okay. So what I want to do is here, I'm going to put something here. I'll just put my name in here. Hit the enter button. So now we know it's there. And then I'm just going to go ahead and run it from here, and then we'll check that screen and see what happens. Let's see if we get an error message too. Hit run. So now we got an error. So what is it doing here? It doesn't know anything about clear input. I mean, about input form, because it's not there. Why? Because we didn't put this here. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this. I'm going to go back in my function. Put that there. I'm now going to hit that. And I'm going to hit save. Now let's double check. It's still there. Hit this. Let's hit run. Now let's see if we get anything. So now we didn't, right? It's gone. But I don't want to do that in every function or any type of function that I make, whether it be in a code.js or a function.js or any other .js file I create underneath this particular project. So let's go ahead and remove these constants. All right. So we're there. I'm going to hit save. Let's go back to our code.js. I'm going to cut this, but I'm going to put it up top here, outside of all my functions. And hit enter here. This is all outside my functions, right? So let's hit save. Well, let's go back here. Let's put my name back in. Hit enter. Okay. Let's go back to functions here. Notice we don't have our constants. All right. So let's see if we get an error message. We hit run. Oh. It's gone. So it's gone. So this would tell me that I don't need to keep on copying my constants here to every function that I write. So it saves a lot of time, right? You put all your functions in a group here. I'm considering this is my main program that calls functions from here. And since I'm calling functions from my main, this stuff automatically grabs this information here. Now, I need to put my clean input function here. So how do we do that? Well, we type in clean or clear input, select it. Now we have that. So let's test this. So we're going to go save. Go back here. Just for it's and giggles, we'll just put my name back in. Hit enter. All right, make sure you hit enter. Because if you don't, it won't do anything because it doesn't know it's there yet. So Kurt should now be put in row 9 once we hit the magic add button. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, seemed like it worked. Oh, it did. So there it is. So that worked. So now we'll go back. So notice here we have our global, I guess we're going to use this term, global constants that will work throughout this project. All right. So whatever you put in here, you don't need to put all those constants that we did initially underneath here. So now we just write code. So we got to do here. So now what's next here? So we have our clear input. We called it here. So we want to go to our database. I'm just going to go manually delete this. All right. So notice that we have no date, no invoice. So how are we going to do that? How are we going to create a automatic date, auto-generated date, or an auto-generated invoice number? So we can do that. We can do that. Again, what we're going to do is we're going to create another function, right? I'm not going to create something here. I'm going to create another function here, and we're going to call that function get invoice number. So we'll go back to our database, and you can see here is we want to add a new date and invoice, which I said before. But how we're going to determine the invoice number and auto increment the invoice number. So how are we going to do that? So we're going to go ahead. We're going to check this cell here. Initially, we're going to check this cell here. We're going to come in with our app script. We're going to check cell C4. See if it's blank or not. If it's blank, if C4 is blank, then we know we're starting brand new. There's been no invoice number yet generated. If there's something there, well, we're going to then find our last row and add one. And then we're going to grab the value before it. So this was 10. This row, we're going to have to add 1 to this. So we have to grab this value in the last row. And we know where it is. It's going to be the last row in column C, which is 1, 2, 3. Column 3, and which is going to be row 8 in this example. We're going to need to store that, and then we're going to have to add 1 to that. And then at the same time, we have to generate a new date. So let's get rid of that. Hit that. So I'm not going to delete any of this crap here, because what's going to happen is when we first initially start this, it's going to see a blank row. And it's going to go into a different portion of the function we're going to write. And it's going to actually start with the number I choose to start on here. And then I'll just overwrite all this stuff. So what we can do here is we can delete all this stuff out. And then we will proceed with writing the get invoice function. So let's go back to our app script, go to functions, and before we write our new function here, see here, we can literally shorten this up and just have it 2 values here. So we can literally just take this and delete some stuff here, and then instead of having this complete list here. But we'll do that in a little bit. All right, so we can come back and clean this up. Right now, again, we just want to program. We want to get it working. We can go back and we clean this up here again. So we're going to hit enter. We're going to call it function space get invoice number, and then brackets, hit return a couple times, go back up and hit the tab key. So as I stated before, what we want to do is we want to get this value here. Is there something here initially? There's something here, then we're going to do something else. If nothing here, we're going to do something else. So we're back in our scripts, and so we want to do let cell equal db not get range of what? Cell C4, and that's done. Next, if cell 4 is blank or not blank, we want to do different things. If it's not blank, we want to find the last row. We want to grab what's in that column 3 or column C, and then we want to add to it, and then we want to put the new stuff below that. So we're going to use an if statement. If what? Cell dot is blank. This is cool here, right? AppScripts has a function is blank function to check to see if a cell is blank or not. And what I'm doing here is I'm checking to see if the cell is not empty or not blank. All right. Now we got that good. Do a little space bar. Hit space a couple times. Let's hit space again. Enter, Hit the magic, tab key, and now what we're going to do here is we want to get the value that's in the last row in column 3 or column C. All right, we want to get the last row that has data in column C. So how do we do that? We're going to create a new variable. I'm going to call it ID. It equals, and then what database, what sheet are we working? Well, we're working in the DB or the database sheet. What we want to do, we want to get a range, a single range. All right, so get range. Then we want to what? Get the range from where? DB dot what row? Last row. So there's going to be a function call get last row. And of course, this get range requires a few variables. In this case, you can see row, which is an integer, which is going to be here. Hit the magic comma, space. Next one's going to be what? A column integer, right? So we're going to type in, we know it's going to be column C, which equates to 3. All right. What do we want to do there? Well, we want to get the value that's in that row, column C. And that's going to be, since we're getting a single value, we want to do value and not values. So I want to take the first one there. And since it's a function, kill it. Let's do that. Now, what do we want to do with that? We want to add +1 to ID. So if that value was 10, we're going to go to the new line, which is blank. We need to grab 10 and add 1 to it. And that's simply done by ID plus. We'll increment ID by 1. We want to, again, I'm going to sit here and get last row. Should have done it sooner, but let's go ahead and do it this way here. So I'm going to do let blank row. Oh shit, I spelled that wrong. Row equal DB dot last get last row. We want to add 1 add 1 to last row. Why do we want to do that? Because we know what the original row is. The row that has date in is right here. But we need to grab the blank row below so we can put our new data in it without overriding the other rows. So we're going to hit enter again. And now we're going to add or set the value into those two rows. We're going to set the date value into that new blank row and then the actual invoice number into that new blank row. So how do we do that? Again, we go to our Magic DB because that's the sheet where we want to put all the information in, the database sheet. We do what? DB. Again, we're going to get what? Range. All right. And what we're going to do there? Oh, we're going to open it up. What's the first thing? We got to put a row number as an integer. In this case, it's going to be called blank row. So we're going to sit there, type that in, hit the magic comma key. Now, what's the next thing we see in there? Right, we need a column. Well, what column we put in? So we're going to put the date in now first. So go back to thing here. Well, it's going to be B, column 2, C, column 3. So we're going to go here. We're going to put this and this in. We're going to auto-generate these two here. So the first one is date, right? So let's go back to our function. So where's it going to be? Row 2 or B. So now we have it, right? Comma, space, the column is an integer. Okay, 2. Now, we're good there, right? But what we're going to set there, we have to set the date in there. So now we do a dot set what? This a value, because we're only going to occupy one cell, so it's value, not values. Open it up, and then we're going to type in new. What's new mean? Well, new means whatever comes next to new, I want to put something new based on that function's return. So at the time of that function that I'm going to use here, the date function, in this case, that's what I want to imprint into that cell. So we're going to do date. Great. Another function here, AppScript has. Tab key. Boom. So now we're going to put the date. Now this is just a date. This is going to be some big thing. Now we can format this date, which we want to do next. So before we go ahead and do that, let's explain here. So new date means basically what the new means is that when this line gets executed, that's going to be the date and time that's going to be stamped. All right. So for example, at 10 a.m., this line was executed, and it took an hour for it to execute this line, which then will be 11 a.m. That's what I mean here. So not when this program is executed is when the time this line gets executed. So now we're going to hit dot. We want to set the format here because we don't need all the information from the date function. And then we have that. It's called set number format. And again, you see here you have plural and non-plural. Since we're only going to be doing one date, we're just going to do format and then the string for the range. So we have a whole bunch of stuff here that you can go through documents. So we want to do year. I'm going to do, I guess, the European way, year, month, and date. All right. So we're going to open our brackets, type in 1, 2, 3, 4 for the year, dash 2 for the month, dash 2 for the date, day. And then we're going to spread this over a little bit. Bam. So now the date's done. Now we do the same thing with the invoice. So basically we're going to do the DB, right? We're going to do get range, right? All that stuff. Where we're going to put it? Well, the blank row, which is held in this variable. And now what column? Well, the next column over, which is column C or 3. All right, so there we got it, right? But what we're going to put in there? Well, we need to put the ID in there. This, right? So this was 10 on the row above. We added 1. We need to put 11 in here. So we need to take this value here, ID, and stick it in wherever row, the last blank row is, column 3 or column C. Hit dot. Wait, hit dot. What the hell happened there? column 3, and now hit dot set. What we're setting an individual value. So again, we go value, not values. And what's we're setting? Variable ID. And then now that's done. Let's test this and let's see what happens here. We're going to hit run, make sure we got the right function that we're testing. We got nothing here. Hit the magic run. Let's see what happened. Nothing. Why is that? Everything looks to be okay here. All right. And then you go down here. Well, one thing, we have nothing in that. So let's go ahead and do this. Hit that. Hit run, and let's see what happens now. So ID did get 1. We go here, and we notice that the date's on a bad line, and this here is on, well, the date's on the proper line, but this never got incremented to 2. Why is that? I hope you've been following closely. I'm not doing data. I am doing get range and set value. So that's what we need. Now if we hit run, let's see what happens now. Info. Why? Started with 1. Let's just get rid of this again. Let's try this again. Let's see if we get 1. All right. Hit run. We got nothing. And we got nothing. Let's go ahead. Let's put in a 1 here. And let's clear this out. See if we get a 2. We got 1. All right. Why do we get 1? Because console IDs before I increment it. What do we got here? Ah, it worked. Right? So that worked. We got the new date. Right? It's February 1st. Everybody wants to know. That's good. Now that's only that. But see, it went up to 2. I manually put something in there, but we don't want to do that. We want to start our own number anyway. So now we have that done. So if the cell is not blank, we do all this crap. But if it's blank, what do we need to do? Well, we're going to do an else, open the brackets, close, do another thing, go up, whoop, 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 bloody well, tab key, tab key. So else what? So we want to get the blank row, right? So let's see if we can use the blank row value from above. Use that variable. It's already written in the if statement. So let's take a gander at that. So we're going to get the last row. So we're going to do DB. We're going to get the last row of what? The database sheet. So get. We're going to do range again. And blank. See, notice here. BLA. Notice is not in there. So that's let. Let compartmentize. So this is for let. This is considered the block for let. All right. So look, we change this to var. All right. Let's change that to var. Now let's see what happens. Still don't get it, right? Still don't get it, because this is considered its own little, I guess, block of code here. So let's go ahead and keep it let. So we have to put in this similar row again. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's type in let, again, blank row, right? Oh, blank row again. DB. Right? Function. right? Nope. So again, we're letting blank row equal the last row with date in it, plus a 1, plus 1. So if C4 is blank, we want to get the last row, in this case here. Oh, get rid of this. The last row with date in is going to be this row above it. So we're going to need to put it here when we start. So we'll go here to db get range of what? I'm going to do the magic. Blank row, comma. Again, what column we want to start in? We're going to start in column 2 because we want to put a new date in there. We put a new date, new date, new date. Column 2, hit the magic parentheses, dot. What are we going to set? Value, new date, it's a function. We'll keep it capitalized. Function, right? New date, we have to set it, right? Set number format. I'm going to set it. Number format. 1, 2, 3, 4 dash dash dd. Hit the enter. Now what we want to do, we want to put a invoice number. So a db. Let's go ahead and just copy this row here for its and giggles. A little more. All right, but we're not going to copy ID. Since this is looking at the first row where we want to put data in this case, row 4, we want to set a value for this. This is when you can set your starting value. So you want to start your invoice number at 100, put 100 here. Want to start your invoice number at 1,000, put 1,000 here. 10,000, put 10,000 here. So I'm going to open up the parentheses, hit that. I'm going to start mine at 1,000. All right, and that looks okay. So again, what do we do here? So we want to get our last row plus 1. In this case, it'll be, this is the last row data and it'll be row 4. And what we want to do, we want to set a new date where in column 2 or B in the blank row from here. And then we want to set our date, our invoice number in the column next to it, but on the same row. All right, we're going to hit save. Now, let's see what happens if we hit run. What mistakes I get. Oh, we didn't. Look at that. Now let's hit run again. All right, so run. Oh, look at that. Run. 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 Oh, there we go. Well, that's working. Cool. Now, before we go to our main body of the code and add that into our submit function, I'm going to reduce this here. So you can see this. You see my thinking is literally linear. I want to remove. I want to clear this input. And then I want to clear this. I want to clear this. I want to clear this. So I literally wrote it just like that. Clear cell 11 and then clear cell 12. So we can reduce this a bit by doing this. So see here, this is a range. So I'm going to take everything like that, delete, and hit save. And that reduced that, and that will clear that row again. So we put something here, values here. All right. And we want to select our clear input. Hit run. There, we did it. So now we have to incorporate this great function into our submit function. So here we are submitting stuff in here, right? So what we need to do is we need to incorporate the get invoice number function into our beloved submit data. In my case, add Well, to do that, we need to put get invoice number into our main code here, code.gs, and we're going to add it into our submit data function. So when we hit the add, there's nothing there. I mean, when we hit the add button, it will automatically generate the invoice number, the date, and put whatever values were in those fields in the add or the input form by selecting the add button. So how do we do that? So we got, again, we have to get the function from over here into here, and we're going to hit the, we're going to hit the enter button. Then we're going to type the function name, which is get invoice number, parentheses, because it is a function. Now we have it. So let's go ahead and let's add some data in and see what happens. So we're going to go ahead here. We're going to just put in Kurt, hit enter. Let's hit add. Looks like it finished the script. Let's go to their database and look what it did. It just added me. And why did it add me? Because I forgot to hit save. So let's go back to that and hit this. Go here, and hit KURT. Enter. Hit add again. And let's see if this time it did it. Oh, look, it did it. It's always helped to save your program, right? But look what it did. It put the date and the invoice number, since we had no invoice number, on the proper row, but then our name, customer name, went down below. Why is that? So let's take a look at our function. So what we're doing here is when we hit the add button, it went into get invoice and it said, is cell for blank? Is it not blank? Well, it's blank. So it skips this. This is false. Goes down to the else. Well, then let's do blank row equals last blank row plus 1. So in this case, last blank row 3 and plus 1. So row 4. So this will produce blank row will equal 4. So we're going to go ahead and put what? Our date on row 4, column 2 or B. And we're going to put our invoice number on the same row, different column C, or column 3. But since there's no number in C4, we're going to create our new invoice number starting with 1,000, which it did. But then it put Kurt on the customer name below. Well, why is that? Let's go back to our beloved main code, whatever, .ds. And that's because what we're doing here. That's right here. So that's saying get last row with data and add 1 to it. Well, this has data in it. That's row 4. Well, it has data in it. So I'm going to plus 1 it. Then the first blank row is row 5. So we're going to go ahead and remove that. Hit this. Hit save. Get rid of this. Delete this. Delete that. Delete that. Go here. Oh, let's go back to our add. Input. Let's put in my name. Enter. Smack the add button. Save the drive. Let's go to our database. And it did it. It bloody did it. Look at that. Date, invoice number, customer name. Is it true? Well, let's do it again. Hit add. Go to database and did it again. Look, it even added one. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. The date stayed the same because the date hasn't changed yet. So that's good. So there we have it here. Now what we're doing here is we are auto incrementing the date and we are auto incrementing the invoice number. Obviously, the date stays the same when you're doing this. You do 10 of them. Well, it's all going to have the same date, but at least the invoice number increment. Now, I said in this video here, I wanted to get up to the clear all and then input all this crap into the invoice sheet. Well, again, this is, getting a little long here. I'm going to stop here, and then in the next video, we're going to then add all this crap into our invoice sheet, which is found here. And then hopefully we'll get to the clear everything. We're going to clear everything in the invoice that we don't need. And obviously we're going to clear all the input stuff when we select the clear all button. So we're getting there. Takes time. So with that, I hope everyone have a happy and wonderful day. We'll see you in the next video.